Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood Chips. So, since I've started this journey with the CNC, sitting right there, little CubiCo, the most common question that I've been getting is, how do you center your project? How do you get your piece, your artwork, from the center of Millmage to the center of your router? That's what this video is about, so stay tuned. Alright, so for us laser engravers, we have to retrain our brain. We're accustomed to dealing with X and Y, and that's it. And the home position, depending on your laser, it's that bottom corner, that back left corner. You place it, put your artwork on your workspace, and that's where it's going to be. Yeah, well, that's not how CNC works. And so you have to retrain your brain. So, speaking specifically with Millmage and working with the CubiCo, I'm going to show you how I find center of my material and get the artwork all lined up, everything placed where it needs to be. Just a little bit of retraining the brain. So, if I've got a piece like this, I've got just a square shaped coaster, and I want to put an image in the center of it with the CNC, not with the laser. Well, first thing you need to do is you need to set up your material in Millmage, and I've got a video on just that, and I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. I'm going to go to project setup in Millmage and show you. Oh, wrong camera. That's the CubiCo. There we go. So this is the project setup in Millmage. And you need to put your dimensions of your material in here, not your workspace. That's the first thing you need to stop thinking about, is your workspace. If your material is small enough or is the right size to fit on the CubiCo or whatever your CNC is, if it will fit within your workspace and you have your CNC set up correctly in Millmage, then this part, your stock dimensions, are going to be fine. So you get your physical dimensions of your material, and you put your physical dimensions of your material here. X, Y, and the thickness of your material. Now, for me, this is the best way that I've been able to wrap my mind around this and get my CNC to go into the position I expect it to be in when I send it out to frame the job. I use the following settings. I put my X and Y at center, not at my bottom corner like I have for my laser, but I put it at center, and I put my 0 point at the top. Okay? So now I've got a green dot right here in the very center of my image. And if I zoom out, this outer perimeter, that's the actual coaster. That's the size of the coaster. If I was to well, I can't select it, but if we went back to File, Project Setup, it's 100 by 100, and if we look at, well, because we did an X and Y 0 here, we've got 0 here, and then we got 50 mil out and 50 mil out, so that's 100 by 100 with my XY in the center. That XY, that outer perimeter is the outer perimeter of this piece. So now I can size my artwork according to that, what I want it to look like. Then this is the next thing, is you need to find your Z. You need to zero your Z. And by zero your Z, I mean lowering your spindle, your bit, your end mill, until you're right at the surface of the material. And then once I've done that, I'm using the move functions here to move the Z up and down, find the actual bottom, or I should say the top of the surface material. I've got my X and Y set up, but now I need to put in my Z. Once I've got this positioned right over the center of the material, and you're like, wait a minute, well, how did you get it right over the center of the material? Well, there's a couple of different tricks for different shapes, but for a square piece like this, it's simple enough. You can take, if you got some really good quality steel micrometers, or I set this up, and I know that I've measured it, and I said, okay, well, it's 100 mil, so I can set my measurement to 50, and then once I'm at 50, lock it in place. That's what that little thing there's for. Now that's locked in place. Now I can take these very sharp scribes, and with one side like that, just take and drag it across and just score you a line across there. And same thing again here, and where those two intersect, there's your center point. Can't get any easier than that. Mark that center point with a pencil, clamp this in place like I did here. I've made me a little jig that I can clamp down to the base of the CubiCo, and that ensures that I've got my coaster in there square, and then clamp it into place very securely, and then jog the laser around using the move tabs, the move functions over here, and you've got preset values. You can move in 1/10, half a mil, 1 mil, 10 mil, and 100 mil, or you can key in whatever value you want it to be right here and move it on your X and Y with these, and move it up and down on the Z with these. And you can do the same thing here, enter your value or use your predetermined values. Wrong camera again. Once you have marked your center, clamped it in place, moved your spindle into place, lowered it down, found your Z, you've got that centered right in the exact same or the exact spot it needs to be. Then go back and switch. What I do is, once I have it's sitting right at the 0 Z, I hit 0 workspace. 0 workpiece rather. 0 workpiece. And that puts the values for X, Y, and Z all at 0, right in the very center, physical center of the piece, and at the surface of the material. Then I can lift it up and hit frame, and it'll frame wherever I've got that artwork positioned in the material. If I didn't want it put in the very, very center for whatever reason, if I wanted all this to be offset and it needed to be up here in that quadrant of the material, my X, Y, and Z is still right here. And when I frame this piece, it's going to frame from this origin point. It'll come out and frame that, and that'll be its position. So that's how I position my piece. Got a lot to learn still. I was trying to do my compound, the optical illusion that we created in Lightburn on Hobo with Wood, and didn't think about it. but this will be what I would call a compound inlay, an inlay within an inlay within an inlay within an inlay. Well, all those multiple pieces, it engraves perfect. I've engraved it and the image looks exactly the way it should. But when you're working in 3 dimensions and doing a V-carve bit, you can end up removing entirely too much material. The grooves, the carved out grooves are kind of what I expected, but I'm looking to have equal distance. That little ridge, the raised piece in there, in some places you can see it's actually completely gone practically. So I've got to learn the offsets, kerf, I guess you will, if you want to put it that way. Got to figure out how to compensate for that whenever you're doing those multiple carvings where they've got pieces up against each other, because the bit eats away at it. So I got a lot to learn. We're figuring it out though. But hopefully this will help you figure out how to position your artwork on the material on your CubiCo. And like I said, I think it'll work pretty much without any CNC, but this is, I'm working specifically with the CubiCo. So make sure you set up your project with your physical dimensions as precisely as possible. Then once you've got your material thickness in there, find your center point, clamp it to your work area, move the spindle over that center point, zero your Z-axis, and then zero the entire workpiece. Then if you want it and you've got your artwork framed there, or your artwork is put right in the center, hit frame and you should see it frame right out in the very center of the piece. So hopefully you found this helpful. Be sure you like, share, and subscribe if you're new to CNC like me and you want to learn Millmage and watch me fumble and stumble and make a mess of things along the way. We'll learn together. So like, share, and subscribe. I'm Steve, Hobo with Wood Chips. See you in the next video.